How's it going, everybody? Thank you for joining us on this video presentation for today. My name is Joseph Ianni. I'm a web content host. Well, I'm a producer of many things, editing, writing, show notes, anything in the web media space. That is my bread and butter. And I'm here today with Tyler Ellicott. Tyler is here to talk about his story, God's Will, which is a novel that is available on Amazon. And well, I mean, he held up a physical copy of it, so we've got proof that it's the real deal. Tyler, I want to thank you for being with me today. As someone who's trying to get into the writing industry myself, I was happy that you connected with me so that we can have this conversation. And the first thing that I think is important for the audience to understand is, who are you and what are you up to these days?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Um, these days, I am, um, I guess I'm not up to much. I'm going to college right now, so that's pretty significant. Um, the the novel I'm very excited about, it's called God's Will. Um, it's about, a little bit about my story. Um, I have, um, but I don't associate with it. Try not to make it a label in my life, but I'm a little bit I'm schizoaffective. I have a little bit of schizophrenia and bipolar, and you'll see that this novel has a lot to do with that. Um, so yeah.
I didn't know because I know before we had this conversation, there was some prep for this. And so I knew mental health was going to be one of the subjects for today, but I didn't know in specific which one it was. But I will tell you that schizophrenia is something that has also affected my family. So one of my aunts, or in Italian, zia, is schizophrenic. And it's been a challenge at times, but she's also had a lot of flashes of brilliance, and so it's something that I was also personally worried about too for myself because hey, if it's in our genetic code, there might be an opportunity, or there might be a possibility that it could affect me as well. So it's a subject that at least I have some familiarity with, and I'm glad that we're going to have a chance to cover it today. So we'll be sure to talk about that. But what I want to understand about your novel is that every writer, I presume, holds a lot of significance to their material. And by that, I mean, every book is important, right? So, what makes God's will important to you in your life?
Um, it is very important to me, um, because I had times in my life where, um, I was. Am I allowed to cuss on here?
Well, I suppose it's it's your spotlight, so you can do as you please.
Okay, that's okay. I I went ape shit. Like
Yeah.
I was crazy. Um, like just doing stuff that people wouldn't normally do. Um, Yelling, screaming, rolling around on top of stuff. Um, and yeah, feeling like actually believing that I was God. You know, it was um it was scary. It was real, and I wanted to portray that in this book. And for the record, before we go any further, I I'm not a Marine, um because not just because I would have got disqualified. I didn't even go to enlist, but I knew, like, um with bipolar, and because schizoaffective is on the bipolar spectrum, um I would have been disqualified, and I wouldn't even have thought of enlisting, um or considered it if my mental illness didn't go down.
Mhm.
So,
I guess one other thing that would help clarify things for everyone viewing this as well is because I've heard the term schizophrenia a number of times because of my own personal association with it. But schizoaffective is a term that I haven't heard. Would you be able to just clarify what would be the difference between someone who is diagnosed with full schizophrenia versus what maybe schizoaffective would entail?
um, the main difference is there is depression, um, like uh, like there's more bipolar significance in schizoaffective, so they can't fully classify you bipolar, and they can't fully classify you schizo schid sorry, I want to say schizophrenic. They can't fully classify you schizophrenic, so they just label you as schizoaffective. Um, and So you have the feelings that like people are out to get you. You have the feelings that um, like you're suddenly famous or important, and so that's the schizophrenic side, and then the bipolar side, it's the mood swings.
Mhm.
Like you're really really high up, and then you're really really low down. But before they even um, classify you, for lack of a better term, that you have to be like that for like a straight month, or like just like I went through all sorts of different types of meds and um that of the sort. So
hmm hmm So at what point were you inspired to take action and start writing this novel? Was there like one key event that said, okay, this is it. I need to turn this into a story?
um it I not too long ago I wrote my memoir. I think it was in May, or the maybe the month before, is when I finished it. I wrote it the year before. Um and it was my quarter life memoir. um I guess is what you could call it. And I had some time to think about it, and just what my bipolar schizophrenia turn took me. Um and I always kind of wanted to make it into a story. Um because when I was living it, I felt like it was a movie. Like it wasn't it was so sensationalized in my mind, and I just felt like um for the people who don't know what schizoaffective is, I think um, it'd be a significant story to get out there. So,
And so for the story itself, now I had the opportunity to listen to one of the chapters on the audiobook, and my takeaway from it was that it seemed to largely entail real events that happened. Um, is the story a 100% true story? Is it mostly true, but there are occasional fictional leaps, or is there a major fictional component to it where it really enters into that territory? So what's the balance there?
um, well, a couple ways that it's after chapter 9, it's purely fictional. Like, obviously because I didn't enlist, and the it would have the war in Afghanistan going a little bit longer in the story, um and because I didn't know Biden would bring the troops back, or just suddenly withdraw them the way he did, and I didn't know COVID-19 would happen,
Mhm.
so I didn't include that in the novel. Um, but obviously the war in Afghanistan's in there, and the events of 9/11 similarly are in there. Um, but
Are you all right with giving us a synopsis of the plot? Obviously, we don't want you to spoil anything major, but I just so I understand kind of what are the story beats?
yeah, um, okay. So the story is about Tyler Ellington, is what I call him.
Mhm.
It's kind of I I'm s- I don't know. I have it in here as kind of like an alter ego of myself, which in a sense it kind of is.
Mhm.
Um, it's a young man. He just turns 20 when the novel starts. He has seen signs from the Holy Spirit and follows orders given to him from the Blackbird or the Sacred Woman. The most critical role Tyler plays up to a little halfway in the book is gathering an army to fight the forces of evil. Anything beyond that point would be spoiling the book.
Sure. So I kind of noticed the same thing happen. Well, I think every writer has a struggle with this in some way, where we want to write characters who really exist in their own world, but we do impart a lot of ourselves into it. So even as I'm writing my protagonist, I'm constantly like trying to figure out how do I make this person different, and not just for the sake of being different, but so that people actually relate to that character and not just relate to me through it. So it's been a fun challenge. And so you said that, you didn't enlist in the Marines. Did you have any was there any attempt? Did you try going to training camp or anything like that? Or did you have any experience at all with trying to join the US military?
No. Um, I did I did have very close friends that joined. Um, and many other acquaintances that would post stuff on Facebook and just share their lives. But no, I didn't even go to the recruitment office. Um, I just I looked it up and is just you automatically get disqualified if you were in the psych ward or um, had any past history of um, that kind of illness. So
If you don't mind me asking, but this is the nature of the conversation, but did you feel like, yeah, I understand where they're coming from. I'm self-aware. This is their policy. Or did you feel a little like unjustly treated? Did you feel like, hey, maybe there's some way I can still serve the military? Maybe I'm not out in the front lines, but maybe I'm doing logistics. Maybe I'm doing something to help. How did the whole process there make you feel?
I uh I got in my local area. I I don't want to say I just felt like I got a little traction because people knew who I was. I worked at a my parents' meat facility and um I was just um it just no one saw my illness coming, like people didn't know me as that. Um and so when I started saying like, okay, you guys are all my disciples and um this is what's going to happen. Armageddon's upon us. And I played what I didn't include in the book. I guess I did a little bit was with the songs. I put in there, but I would um be posting a lot of songs, and I felt like the songs I posted, it was like God's playlist, and I felt like veterans would take something from that and just like apply it to their actions. So I felt like I was doing that bit, which isn't that significant, but in my mind, everything was um, way bigger than what I maybe what it was. So yeah.
Was there an inciting incident that had you start thinking this way, or because there's either situations where something just happens almost instantaneously. But then there's also, and there's a metaphor that I'm just about to lose, which is like the frog in the pot where the water slowly boils and you don't notice it until it's too late. So do you recall how it started to materialize in your mind?
Um, well, um, the illness itself, it started with, um, like depression, like hitting out of nowhere. Like I was isolating myself, and so that kind of happened earlier in the fall of the year I turned 21. And then as the year progressed from that point, um, I it I slowly or it kind of I don't know, I just had these thoughts and delusions out of nowhere. Um, and then towards the like the 31st of the year, uh like before the new year, I was like at like just going berserk. And I just felt like I had to get my message across to people that Armageddon starting, and I'm the messenger of um what's going down. So yeah.
It does make me wonder just and I'm getting into some pretty delicate territory here, so I'm just thinking through this carefully. But throughout history, there have been people who have claimed to in some way be a vessel of God or an avatar of God. The first name that came
Yeah.
to my mind was Joan of Arc, who was obviously a major historical figure in France, and who straight up said, I God told me to do this, and it just makes me wonder about what exactly what resilience does a brain have to have, or if God is truly trying to communicate through us people. And I'm a believer in God myself too. So, this is something that is very personal and very close to me. But it does make me wonder about how exactly can God really interface with us humans, with one of His greatest creations, and if it's a matter of are we mentally resilient enough, but also mentally flexible enough to receive His message and act on His part. Um, so I would love to hear your reaction to any of that. If there's anything that you wanted to add on to that. If not, I definitely have a next question for you.
No, some um that's a valid question because I kind of like I see um that kind of stuff with like Mormons, and like it's just I don't know. I just think that's a totally false religion and it's man-made. And I feel like it had to start with like someone who like me who just is just delusional. No offense to Mormons out there. It's just that's just my take on it. Um, but it kind of makes me feel kind of ashamed. But in the same token, I feel like um it just it people they have to know about it. They have to be aware that people think like that.
Mhm. Well, I'll just say something real quick about Mormonism, because one of my girlfriend's friends is in that church, and I think every religion on the planet needs to accept that, people, outside observers uh, might think something differently about it because it is religion, right? So every religion thinks something is up with the other religions. If we didn't, we would be following them anyways. So I get that. And I really didn't know anything about Mormonism, but I remember we were sitting at a gathering that they were having in a church. We were in like one of the side rooms where they have like Sunday school classes, and what they were, my understanding was it is that the Book of Mormon was almost like to them it's the third testament. So we have Old Testament, New Testament,
Right.
and then the Book of Mormon. And the one similarity that I spotted between them and the story of Christianity is that the reason why Christians are so devoted to the story of Jesus Christ is because there were so many people contributing to that story, and there were so many people who swore on their life, who sacrificed their life because they believed, they were there, they saw what Jesus did. And here we are in 2024 and thinking, so he really walked on water, so he really conjured all of that bread and fish. He really did all of that. And it makes me think about how interesting it would be to make a movie about Jesus Christ, where people believe he's got all of these magic powers, but in reality he's just like very resourceful and is a networker and just kind of
Right.
figures out like he's inventive, right? He figures out ways to be ahead of the curve. But there is some similarity to that in the Book of Mormon too. There were people, I believe John Smith, I think that was
Right.
his name. I
Yeah.
wasn't prepared to talk about this on top of my head, but he was illiterate, but then he managed to write all of this text down that was in relation to the story. So a lot of the validity of these really just comes from other people being so passionate, being so convinced that
Right.
their minds just can't be changed on it. So I'm not trying to like turn this into a debate or anything like that, but I just wanted to kind of add some of my perspective that was relevant to it. And so, any other reactions to that? Otherwise, I'll hit you up with our next question.
Um, I guess what I gotta say about that is, um, if they had medication back then, it might have been different for, it might have been a really different situation, I feel. Because,
I can agree with that. Yeah, medication would have altered things for sure.
yeah, that's my only take on that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you shared me one of the chapters, and so we're talking about something specific in the plot now, where Tyler is in training, and he, he he's being tested, not just by the drill sergeant, but excuse he's being tested not just by the drill sergeant, but it seems that he's also being tested by God. And the drill sergeant is he is saying, "Are you God?" And you do a better drill sergeant than I do, but
No,
what
that's pretty
I what I
good.
was wondering about that is what kind of significance do you think it had on the character that an authority figure like a drill sergeant was feeding into his idea that he was God? So what I'd like to hear about is how maybe the drill sergeant, as that authority figure, can have a much more profound impact than just a random person on the street, right? Because we would trust our drill sergeants; they're the ones that are supposed to shape us as we're entering into the armed services.
Yeah. Um, I think, um, I guess I didn't really think of the significance of the drill sergeant would have on Tyler Ellington in the book, in the novel. But it might have helped him, um, just feel like, just give him a higher sense of purpose. Feel like, I because what I what um I guess that wasn't really my intent to make it a bigger, like the drill sergeant was saying he was God,
Mhm.
but um by the end of that chapter, I think the drill sergeant realizes that the Tyler has a lot of, um like he's serious, like he will do um whatever it takes. So,
And does Tyler have any special abilities? Because I mean, no, I think the reason why it was significant for me was just because it was the one chapter that I did observe. So maybe in if I had if I had observed all of the context leading up to it, I might have thought differently about it. But I think what I got from it is that Tyler is like exceptionally physically strong and is able to carry a much more weight than the average human or even the average recruit in the Marines would be able to. And there is some, I guess, significance to being able to carry physical weight and how that might be a metaphor for trying to carry strong
Right.
spiritual weight or emotional weight. So that was my take on it. But does the protagonist have actually like a set of significant abilities bestowed by God, or is it all just his willpower is driving him forward?
Um, I guess he does have um quite a bit of strength and ability, but um he just he kind of he's not the one to appear like he could take on that much weight and go as far as he did with that weight. But there is metaphorically uh there is significance to that too. Just the weight of his mission on his mind is symbolic of those types of scenes in the book where he's carrying that weight.
Mhm.
So,
So next thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about some of the technical side of this. And full disclosure, like I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to get into published authorship myself. Um, this is all something that I'm personally interested in. And I don't know if you can hear. Can you hear the birds chirping? Sorry about
not
that. Okay, we're
no,
good. But we have pet birds, and sometimes they're closer than
vaguely,
I'd like.
yeah.
So I'd like you to first tell us about the early phase of the book. What came first? Did you have to do the plot first? Did you go chapter by chapter? How did it start to materialize?
Um, I don't want to share all my secrets, but no, I'm just kidding. Um, the there's a guy called the Nerdy Novelist on YouTube, and he had like a 40 chapter outline, and basically it just started with the titles. I because he had like what the protagonist does, what the antagonist does in each chapter, and um, their kind of feuds, and I just kind of relayed that to how I could put that into a story. Um, and yeah, so it started with the titles. I just put the titles in there, and I kept in the back of my mind what I could put uh, um, um, under those titles of the details to make it um, more specific. So,
Cool. There was one thing that because for me where I'm at with it, my book is technically done, but I'm just giving myself until next June to keep revising and revising, revising until
right.
I mean sooner or later it's got to come out, right? Like we can keep things in our laboratory for our entire lives, just tinkering with every last fine detail, but sooner or later warts and all, the book has to exist. And one thing that I did that I actually thought was a lot of fun and also helpful was I always started my chapter with the last couple of lines because basically every line, the last lines are always that hook to get people to want to read the next chapter. So I ended up reverse engineering a lot of my chapters. Like, okay, this is how I want it to end. So how do I work my way to that ending? So that was just one thing that I personally enjoyed doing, but I will take you up on checking out the Nerdy Novelist. So did it go through a lot of iterations? Actually, and I'll add on to that. So at what point did you feel like, okay, I'm ready to release this? Like where do you think where did your confidence or your readiness come from to say, okay, now I'm ready to start sharing it with others?
Um,
Confidence may be a bit of a, you know, a either you have it wrong. I mean, anyways.
um, well, prior to writing my first memoir and then this novel, um, uh, I was into music, or I'm still into music, making music. So I make beats. I'm also an artist. So I feel um, like releasing stuff, you just you, I don't think you should sit on it that long. And I guess with music you could delete it and go back and edit it. Like you could take it off, which isn't I guess that's not the best advice. Like do your due diligence, edit. or regret it. Um, but um, don't don't obsess with it that long. It's like Russ, the artist Russ says. Um, like uh, like you'll be late to your own party if you don't. Um, you know what I'm saying? Have you heard that?
No,
You'll be
no, this is the first that I can remember, but I think I understand what it means. It's all the whatever success is uh due for you based off of your creation. If you keep putting it off, then you're putting that off as well, which means that you're putting off your ability to live, the life that you deserve to live based on your work. So yeah, so sooner or later you have to your creation has to exist and it has to affect others. I think one thing that maybe gives a lot of people um anxiety about it, and there's a positive side to this too, but I think the anxiety just comes from how easily someone else can say something tarnishing or say something unpleasant or unfair about it. But the other side to it too is how much more accessible publishing is, and that anybody can enter into it. Um, because otherwise, and this is something that personally has been a challenge for me, is that I'm not a conventional reader. I mean, I have a stack of books. Like there's like, I don't know, 50 books, on one of my shelves. So I do read, but I also watch a lot of TV shows. I like movies, I like video games, and I just participate in conversations and I observe and I just try to absorb everything. And so what personally has always frustrated me is like, oh, I didn't read this book. You're a writer and you didn't read this book? Well, so what? I mean, everybody has a different experience. If you expect the exact same thing from every writer, then you're gonna get the same story from every writer. And nobody wants that. We want different stories from different people. So there's a balance there. It's accessibility, I think, is the great thing, but public blowback can also be, I think, a lot greater because you don't have, say, like an agent or a publisher got that confidence in your story. You have to have the confidence in your story all your own.
yeah, yeah. Um, I think um I think if you sit back and wait on publishing, um, I think it'll drag on, and if you're not just um, comfortable with it, um, how am I trying to say this? If you're if if you don't publish it and get on to like the next creative thing, it could you'll lose interest.
Mhm.
At least that's the way it is for me. With someone with schizoaffective, you lose interest a lot easier than the general population. Um, so that's my advice. If you
Mhm.
don't want to take it from schizoaffective, I can understand that too. So
Well, the other thing that I just wanted to say on top of that as well, is whether it's an unfinished book or even like a game that I didn't finish, or there's a save file that's sitting around for years. I think the burden of unfinished prospects can also
right,
start to weigh down on someone mentally. So that's why, like, if I start something, I want to get it done. I don't want to start on something new, because as I go through life and I just have all of these things that were never done, and I keep thinking, oh, I'll get to it someday. I'll get to it someday.
right,
I suppose I'm thankful that, we have our machine overlords are going to take over pretty soon, and we'll actually it'll be a lot easier to get these things done. So there's a little bit of a spark of positivity and hope that I have for our eventual um, overtaking of the Matrix. But next question for you. So, was there anything fun or interesting that you encountered during the publishing process? And so by that I mean is like obviously writing the book is a challenge, but what kind of challenges did you come across as you were trying to actually get the book formatted to your liking on Amazon, with the cover and all of that professional publishing side?
um, I guess the main theme, um, I just for the writing and what's inside the book, I just use Pages on a Mac or whatever on Apple. Um, so that was really simple. Um, and I guess if you want to make it look more creative on the inside, you should use a different program that costs you like 180 bucks or whatever. And I was, I just wanted to get the story out there. The look inside the book wasn't that important to me. I did use emojis, and they let me use emojis in the underneath every chapter, which is pretty cool. Um, and the cover, I sent to a freelancer. I was like, this is what I want, and yeah, I guess we'll get to the horse there at the end or
We'll get to,
whatever.
you
Yeah.
know, we'll, yeah. I promise I'd say that to the end, so I'm going to keep that promise.
Okay, fair enough.
So one thing that I can say from my personal experience is that what kept me from wanting to write a novel for a long time, and I mean a long time, part of it was because I didn't see myself as a conventional reader. I felt like I was undeserving of it, but I got over that hurdle. And the other thing that held me back for a long time was just thinking, this is going to be such a pain in the ass, that it's going to be very tedious, very laborious. And there is certainly a lot of work involved, but I ended up really having a lot of fun with the process. Part of it is because I'm writing a comedy, so I get to make myself laugh as I'm coming through it. I'm coming up with the
Right.
story beats. So maybe the subject matter made a huge difference. But my question to you is, what uh, what was some of the most fun that you remember having during the creative process?
Oh, it had to have been the audiobook for sure. Um, I mean, especially if you do your own audiobook, it just you could like um like reading it, like everyone has like the voice of the characters in their own mind and what happens in their own mind, but um doing the audiobook, it brings it to life.
Mhm.
Um and yeah, there's nothing funner than acting like a drill sergeant and just yelling and you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I have a couple of friends who are actually more excited about when the audiobook side of something comes out rather than the textual side. And I made this revelation, and this is actually going to transition us perfectly into our next question for you. But I had this realization that if you lay out all the different formats that a creator can do, obviously some formats are a lot easier and a lot more accessible. Writing a book is the most accessible thing you can do because you're just putting words on a page, and no one is gonna can stop you from realizing that book. But as you go along, it gets more challenging. If you want to do a comic book, you're going to need an illustrator. So it's at least a two-person job unless you happen to also be as good an illustrator as you are a writer. But now that, okay, well, congratulations, but not everybody is like that. It seems to be that there are mostly illustrators or writers working together. But what happens is comic books end up being a great way to serve as storyboards if case they want to turn into a film. As a matter of fact, when you get to making a film, you have to write a screenplay for it anyways. So while it's structured differently than a novel, you're still basically writing a novel's worth of text before the movie is allowed to exist. And then you're basically making a black and white comic book before the movie is allowed to exist because you have to storyboard it. So these formats all serve as a great way to safely and confidently transition into the next more complicated and resource intensive format. And so then, a movie can serve as a great benchmark for a TV series. While movies are more complicated to make in a short period of time, TV series are a much longer commitment. A TV series can go on for 10 years, right? Most movies don't take 10 years. A few of them have, but for the most part, a TV series is sort of the most complicated and most involved format there is. So, whether you're reflecting on this now or maybe you were thinking about this while you're working on it, what have been your prospects for turning it into a TV series or a film or a comic book? Or where do you feel like it should be going next, if it should be going anywhere? Maybe you're just happy keeping it as a book, but These days, I think most people want to see their stuff turn into something else too.
I I think is worthy of a feature-length film. I think turning it into a series would be very difficult. Maybe not, you know. I did go to college a year studying film, which which doesn't say that much, but I learned a little bit, and the professor was very knowledgeable. Um, and I get getting the screenplay to someone, the director is so difficult, but in the same token, I think it would just be worth it just to have a shot of having it made into a film. Um, but there's a lot to think about there. But it's definitely worthy of a feature-length film. And I'm sure everyone says that about their book, but the just I don't know.
Mhm.
I just gotta put a screen into a screenplay. And I'll probably want to someone good to put into a screenplay, so someone that's good at it. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think every writer should think that their work is worthy of being made into something else. Um, And this is another recent revelation. And the reason why I'm saying that a lot is just because as I'm getting closer to my own publishing, there's a lot that I need to think about in this respect. But one thing that I'm really adamant about avoiding is asking people, is this good? We're the creators. Our job is to make it good. So I'm not going to ask that question of other people. I know it's good. Is it to their liking? Maybe, maybe not. But um, just tying back to one thing I mentioned earlier, that if we take it to a publisher and the publisher says, yeah, it's good, having professional confidence in it goes a long way. But without that, we have to have that confidence in ourselves. So that's one thing that I think is really important is, yeah, we believe in this. We think that it's good. Uh, and we have to be our own advocates for it. So with that, we are getting pretty close to the end of our conversation here today. But you did say that you're in college now, so I just wanted to hear about what are you studying now, and uh, does it tie into what we've talked about, or are you just like completely gone in a different direction with it?
No, it's I'm studying English with creative writing emphasis at Southern New Hampshire University. It's just online.
Sure.
They have a big online program, but I think it's something you could take online and still get a lot out of it. So yeah, uh, I uh, I think I could learn a lot, and it'll help me. So
Did by any chance any of it, um, because maybe the timing is a little unfortunate, but like, did you learn anything in the course so far that made you think, maybe I should go put that in the book?
no,
No, okay.
I guess I haven't got that far in the um I'm on my first year of studying this.
Mhm.
So I'm sure later on I might feel that way, but not yet.
Yeah.
So
And so I also wanted us to um, make sure that we close out our one of our themes today, which has just been about mental health. So this question will be in two parts. What did you feel, or sorry, how did you feel that this book had an effect on either your mental health going forward, or if it gave you a chance to reflect on it up until that point? I'll ask that again if that was confusing because I'm like, what the hell did I just say? Cut that and just try it again. How did you feel writing the book had an effect on your mental health going forward? And what message do you want to leave people with on the subject altogether?
um I think I think it helped me tremendously just to see how far I came from feeling like that, but also um just finding peace with it, like um and acceptance within myself that um that um that it's a story that I wanted to be told back then, and it's a story that I want to be told now. Um, and I just I found peace with it, and uh, I encourage I encourage anyone with a mental illness, even without a mental illness, to write the story that people thought were delusions um, or whatever story they have within themselves that they need to get out. I think I think it's a good thing. So.
Mhm. And so, what are you working on next? Is there a sequel in the works, or are you doing a different series? Where are you at now?
Um, no sequel, no sequel for God's will, but um, there is a couple of stories that my grandma shared with me. Um, there were true stories. Um, one is about uh, she got kind of tangled up with the mafia, um, accidentally because there's these guys in trench coats in an elevator, um, and she was like, they're asking if they'll they're asking her if they'll let them in, and she's like, yeah, I'll let you in if you're not the mafia. And uh that's a fun little tale, and they like stalked her for a while just to make sure she wasn't someone that they or one of her enemies, one of their enemies. um so I That's a fun little story. She goes into all different directions with that. um But she says, wait until she's gone to do that because she doesn't want to get tied up with the mafia again.
Okay,
So-
gotcha. That's
But
fair.
and then another one was there was like on a shuttle bus, she was at an airport, and there might have been like a taxi driver or something, and all she could understand was like Osama bin, and they were laughing, and she called the directors of security at the airport there, and eventually down the road there was they found the shuttle bus driver was making bombs to
Holy
uh
cow.
to blow up a subway. So she she just to align the dots of where just everything that happened, because she was like, "Oh yeah, I did that," but then she's like, "Wait, hold up, that was God's plan." And
Mhm.
so if I could just connect the dots um, to that happening, I think that would make a good novel.
Oh
So
man, I actually would love to. Now, my humorous brain is kind of activated right now because it's the idea of this, um, badass grandmother who like stops the mafia, thwarts terrorists, and it's just like it's just they call her in to investigate like murders and stuff like that. She's got a real keen eye for it. So I think that would be I do see like a slightly comedic edge to it because typically we don't expect our elders to be pulling this kind of weight, but. Um, I'll tell you this story real quick, just because just a quick tribute to my nonna who is still with us. She's the last of my four grandparents still alive, and she got into an altercation with it was either my zia or my grandfather, nonno in Italian, who had since passed. And the altercation ended up with her throwing a knife across the room. My nonna threw a knife across the room. And my other zia, who also lived there at the time, she calls 911 on her own mom. And so the police arrest, little old Nonna Babushka, and she's hauled off. And she had to go to parole. So she's in the parole waiting room with all of these like problem kids, all these gang kids, and they just see this stumpy little woman in her like 85 years old, and everyone was scared of her the most, right? Because like whoever we want to see whoever she screwed over. So there's comedy there to it, and so yeah, I like to see that too. But The last question that I have for you, with the full intention of ending on the lightest note possible. Um, on the cover, the horse had a very interesting pattern. It looked like it was like a Dalmatian kind of. So, is the horse a significant character in the story as well?
Oh, it's it's an Appaloosa.
An Appaloosa. Okay,
Yeah, so they have those spots like that. Um, Native to the Nez Perce tribe. So there's the significance in the story is it just they're not native to Afghanistan is where the horse shows up. So it was sent from God, and so that's the significance of the Appaloosa. So
okay, okay. I did not know that about different horse breeds. So yeah, I'll keep that in mind. All right, well, that's everything that we've got for today. So, Tyler, thank you for putting this conversation together. It was from an aspiring writer to another writer to a published writer. It was it's just pleasant for me on my journey to get to sit down and talk to someone who's gone through a lot of the processes that I'm in the middle of going through and will be going through as well. So I'm also grateful that we've had the chance to connect like this. But if you have any other last words you want to share, any other stones we forgot to upturn, feel free to do so. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap us up.
just chase your dreams, uh, get your story out there, um, and yeah, it was great talking with you. I appreciate you, and much love. So.
For sure. Right back at you. All right, everybody. So my name is Joseph Ianni, and I have a website called conjure.media. I have been in media for about 10 years. So if you want to find Joseph Ianni on LinkedIn, make sure you recognize this face because based off previous research, I think there are other Joseph Iannis who are mob related. So just, tread carefully. And feel free to reach out to either of us for anything that happens to cross your mind, across your paths. And all the best to everybody out there. Take care.